Last month, the University of Idaho hosted a workshop focused on preparing beginning ranchers. Joining us on the PNW Ag Network hotline is Phil Bass with the U of I. And Phil, thanks as always for the time. So can you give us the details about last month's Beef 101? Who was there and why'd you even hold this workshop?
Yeah, so it's really cool that the July workshop was a repeat of one that we did in May. And the reason for that is because we had such a good response from the initial workshop that we wanted to open up for more folks. But so overall, we target about 30 folks per workshop, and we get a few that drop out right at the last minute, but we had some pretty good attendance. The workshop was done at the University of Idaho. We utilize the USDA meat plant that we have there. We utilize the animals that we have and some of the fields that are just right close to everything. And so it's a good venue. The workshop is funded through a USDA grant to help get new folks into the beef industry. And I would say, not only are we getting new folks, but we even have a few that have already been in it for a little bit, and we're just looking to get a refresher and get a little bit more information. But the workshop is it's soup to nuts. We start with evaluating live animals. We go through a slaughter demonstration of those cattle, and then as those are chilling over the next day and a half, we will have the participants engage with our veterinarian on staff, Dr. Lauren Christensen. They get beef quality assurance certified with Miranda Small. They spend some time out in the field with a natural resource expert, Audra Cochran. They also get some time with a beef economist or an ag economist who specializes in the beef market, and that's Brett Wilder. We do spend a good time just kind of discussing the overall beef industry. And at the end of the last day of the workshop, half day of the workshop, we put knives in their hands and they get to cut those sides of beef that were slaughtered a couple days ahead of time, and get to experience not only the fabrication process and how we get to roasts and steaks, but also to see how good their guesses were on the live animal assessment and look at the grading process. And so it's a snapshot of the industry, and hopefully it's just the beginnings of a learning experience for all those attendees.
Phil, what I found so interesting about the workshop is the variety of producers that were there. You went from people who have just a few cows, maybe at a gentleman's farm, to operations of hundreds, if not thousands of head.
That's right. Yeah. We absolutely had the hobby farmer who's just beginning to get into the business, and we welcome all, absolutely. We had folks from Montana, Idaho, of course, all up and down the state, Washington, Oregon, and actually one individual who's currently in the process of moving to Idaho, but currently lives in Texas. And so it was neat to have all of those individuals, different perspectives, different backgrounds, but all have the same goal of just getting into the beef industry. And we definitely had a few that were from multi-generational ranches, but just wanted to get a good refresher and learn.
Can you also talk to us about how the participants not only worked with the animals and the cuts, but also had a chance to focus on soil and forage as well? Through
the USDA grant, we were able to secure some funding so that they could send in a soil sample from their ranch and have that analyzed through the University of Idaho Soil Analysis Lab. And so they're going to get a better snapshot of what it is that they're working with as far as the forages, because Northwest is a great cow-calf area. We highly rely on forage and rangeland and pasture land. And so it's important to know that what are we dealing with as far as the inputs that are going into those forages that are coming out of the ground that you have. And maybe we need to add some soil amendments, and that's where the results would be sent back to the farmers or the ranchers that did that had the assessment done, but then also to their local county extension agent. And that way they can build a plan and go forward with that. We also were able to secure funds to have the participants send in forage samples to be analyzed as well. And so mostly what we're looking at is, get some good samples of this year's hay crop and send that in and see what kind of nutrients we're working with. And again, so that we can just optimize what those cattle are going to be eating on throughout the winter. And so lots of, we charge $20 a person to be a part of the workshops, but really that was just to have them get a little skin in the game. But just the analyses alone are about $100 return, and just the costs alone that we're covering. But then also, we send them home with a rope halter, a sorting flag, and a butcher knife. And so in the end, they definitely make out not just with the knowledge, but also the tangible pieces.
And Phil, I understand that the UVI, you guys are looking at maybe doing a Beef 201 next year.
Yeah, and I don't want to say too much because I haven't had a chance to get the team together and debrief. It's a busy team that we have. There's two others that I didn't mention, but Jessie Van Buren, she's Latah County Extension Agent here, close by in Moscow. But then also Dr. Michael Cully, he's the other meathead that I work with. He's my colleague. And, we need to get together and see what exactly it is that folks want and need and what we can provide for them. We're probably going to have to reach out to additional experts that we know either in the academic world or in the industry. But yeah, we definitely need a 201 because there was just great response and folks asking for it after their 2.5 days with us. It's likely that we would probably focus a little bit more on breeding and genetics and additional animal health. But that's to come once we get the team together. So stay tuned.
Phil, along those lines, and I know you mentioned you need to go through the debriefing, but what was the feedback you received from participants in 101?
They absolutely loved the contact with the veterinarian, with Dr. Lauren Christensen. She's one of our younger faculty, but very dynamic and extremely well-versed and has a lot of experience as well from a practical side of things. It's kind of a harder sell on the economics side of things, no pun intended, but a lot of folks still could see the value in that because if you don't understand the working nuts and bolts of that business, if you're not truly making a profit in agriculture, you're merely gardening is what I like to say. And so it's important to make sure that you're making a profit and look at the other options that might be out there as far as risk management, insurance, and budgeting and just building a good business plan so that your cattle operation is sustainable. They definitely appreciated the opportunity to put a knife in hand and do a little meat cutting as well. And we broke them up into teams, so it's not like everybody got their own side of beef. But cool thing about one of those carcasses that we slaughtered, we were able to purchase a cull cow from the university. And one of those, that particular carcass, once it was all cut up and ground, went to entirely to the local food bank in the north region of Idaho. And so not only were they able to learn and grow themselves professionally, but they also were able to give back in that regard as well.
Phil Bass with the University of Idaho, thank you so much for joining us right here on the PNW Ag Network.